Hey, somebody needs to tell the Halos that when you're in a playoff race, you got to win 2 out of 3, not lose 2 out of 3. We're going to chat about what went wrong this weekend and the one thing that went right. It's time to get locked on with Mike and John, and this is Locked On Angels.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. You can find us anywhere you get your podcast, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and SiriusXM by searching Locked On Angels. And the best way to help us out is by giving us a rate and a review. And those watching on YouTube, make sure that you're subscribed and click that bell to be notified every time a new episode drops. And today's show is brought to you by Game Time. You can download the Game Time app, create an account, and use our code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed.
Thanks for being here for this episode of Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. You've got the Frisch Brothers here with you, a.k.a. the Super Halo Bros. My name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Hey, Locked On Everydayers, join us every day this week. We're going to be recapping those games against the Rangers. Then the Angels come home and play the Rays next weekend. And we have a really interesting conversation tomorrow that I'm really looking forward to. There's a lot of thoughts about the pitching coaching and the hitting coaching and things like that for this team. And we're going to dive into the numbers and show you the results and really determine what's working and what's not. But before we get to that, Mike, we're recapping this weekend series against the Astros, where the Angels took the game on Sunday, but not before they lost Friday and Saturday, both games 11-3.
Yeah.
Or if you want to flip it around and get 3-11 about this, they lost them 3-11, and it put me down, in the words of 3-11. So there you go.
That was a dad joke, and you're not even a dad.
Was that a stretch?
It was a stretch, but it was good. So Friday was an 11-3 loss, and the story, John, Friday was Reid Detmers. He just looked lost. 2 1/3 innings pitched, 7 hits, 7 earned runs. The guy on the mound just lacked confidence. He was not a threat. It felt like the Astros knew what was coming, and they weren't cheating this time. It knew, like Bregman, when he was at the plate, you could just tell that he knew what Reid was going to throw, and he knew that it would probably be flat, probably be in the zone. He just looked like a terrible pitcher on the mound, and a lot of doubt. And then after the game, Jeff Fletcher actually tweeted, and it was in response to somebody asking a question.
This infuriated me.
And he tweeted, and he said, hey, I asked Matt Wise about Reid Detmers and how they're helping him. And he said, Matt Wise responded and said that they're working with Detmers on pitching to contact more, and thought he would have a different mindset going into this start. So translation, we changed his approach, and it didn't work. And Reid has not been the pitcher that we have come to know over the last year and a half. His ERA is 10.30 in his last 6 starts. Johnny, I'm not going to ask you what we do with Matt Wise because I already know the answer to that. However, what do we do with Reid Detmers, John?
Mom watches the podcast. I can't use the language that I want to use
yes.
In describing Matt Wise. Mike, I read that, and like I said, it infuriated me because I went to baseballsavant.com. That's where all of the StatCast information is, all the data. So when you're watching at home, Locked On Everydayers, and you're watching the baseball game, and you hear Mark Gubicza say, let's check out, StatCast powered by Google Cloud, and they show you the exit velocity, and they show you the launch angle, and they show you where the pitch was versus the strike zone and things like that. That's all StatCast, and that's all data that gets recorded at every game, every inning, every pitch. It's incredible. Here's where I take issue. If you go to Reid Detmers' StatCast page, we talk about percentile rankings on this show all the time. And you want to know what he's really good at, Mike? He's really good at swings and misses. He's really good at getting guys to chase. He's really good at getting the strikeout. You know what he's not good at? Pitching to contact. Because if you go to his page, all of the good things he does are in the red, and all of the stuff where there's contact made, where it's expected batting average, actual batting average, hard hit, barrel percentage, all of those things where Reid Detmers gets contact are in the blue. And so for Matt Wise to tell him to do something he's not good at is completely asinine to me. That's the word I'll use because it's got the word I want to use in it.
Yeah.
But again, family show. It's incredibly ridiculous, the fact that we all have access to this data. You and I, us nerds who talk about the Angels every single day, we all have access to this data, including the Angels. So for them to see what Reid Detmers is good at and go, let's try something else, I just can't understand that.
Yeah.
And I'll even say this, Mike. I'll say that when he got his no-hitter last year, that was actually not lucky, but like he had really good, what you call BABIP, batting average on balls in play. Basically, everything that was put in play in that game was easily grabbed by the infielders, the outfielders, throw to first, that's an out. That's why you get a no-hitter, because you're pitching efficiently. You're not throwing a ton of pitches, and the guys behind you are picking you up and playing good defense, right? And then he goes down to AAA, and he comes back, and he takes this huge step forward in the second half of the season. And I think by all accounts, when it comes to Detmers and even like Sandoval, you see the steps forward they took last year, and then that doesn't happen this year. And I just can't believe that that's the way it went down. And so for them to talk in two different directions, Mike, about Reid Detmers and look at what he's good at and decide, let's try something else. Let's try to make him a pitch to contact guy, which again, historically, he's not good at.
Right.
I can't understand how the Angels and Matt Wise came to that conclusion. And I'll say this too. How frustrating is it that when you go up against Justin Verlander and you get 2 runs, 3 runs, that's a game that you're in.
Yeah.
If your starter doesn't blow up the way that Reid Detmers does. And that's exactly what happened on Friday. It happened on Saturday with Anderson. We'll talk about that. Just frustrating all around.
It is frustrating. And I wonder if the approach, and I'm giving some grace here, but I wonder if the approach was, Reid's throwing a lot of pitches early on in the game. And so maybe if we had him actually pitch to contact, that would be helpful, which according to the stats would be a terrible approach. But I think that maybe that might've been the thought. Where I think that they should have done some work, John, was in the 0-2 counts, because Reid Detmers has a ton of 0-2 counts this season. And then suddenly it's 3-2. And it's not just Reid. This is why Matt Wise is somebody who's in the hot seat, because Sandy's doing that, and Anderson's doing that, and other pitchers have done that. And so I think that that's where you want to do some work. Like, hey, maybe when it is 0-2, maybe use one waste pitch, but then come back in with something in this spot, or come back in with something high and in the strike zone, but high that they would swing after. Throw a fastball here, throw a slider here, because that could be beneficial to Reid. But to change his approach in August has not been great. And he's already done, 5 months of baseball already.
And his month of June was incredible too.
Yes,
like he had a great, spectacular June. And you're right. The approach shouldn't be, how can we change his approach on the mound? It should be, how can we make him more aggressive to get more swings and misses and get guys to strike out on 0-2 or 1-2. Yeah, because you and I have complained that these guys are throwing way too many pitches, but that's the mindset that needs to change, not make him a pitch to contact guy. Like, what are we doing here, guys? Come on.
And that's just an affirmation of this whole pitching strategy has to be reevaluated, right? And something that came out this weekend that was in like the gossip rumor mill was Verlander had an issue with what the Mets were doing and what they were asking him to do. And he said, man, the analytics I had in Houston was, 90,000 times what we have here in New York.
And that's the thing, Mike, is a team like Houston, they use analytics and they use it better than other teams. I know I can already hear, people saying, well, the analytics are ruining the game. No, because that's why Houston Astros are good. They know how to use analytics. Yeah. And the Angels clearly probably have the data and they don't know how to use anything, especially the pitching coach, Matt Wise. Right. I can't understand that at all.
This is not the start that you wanted to start the weekend. And it wasn't the way that the Angels wanted things to go. Kenny Rosenberg came in and really saved the bullpen.
Yeah, no kidding.
All he did was just eat the innings. He did give up 4 runs. He walked 5. He's just not the guy that you want in during that moment, but you did need him to save the bullpen. So thank goodness that happened, because it did allow the Angels to use some pieces on Sunday, which was something that we enjoyed watching. That was an enjoyable game on Sunday.
Well, the Angels are going to be continuing their trip through Texas, and they're playing the Rangers tonight at 5:05 Pacific time. You can catch every pitch of the Angels hometown broadcast on SiriusXM with the SXM app. All you got to do is search Angels. Coming up on Locked On Angels, we thank Chase Silseth for being the only Angels starter that remembered that the Angels are actually trying to get to the playoffs. And we'll talk about what we mean by that coming right up.
Today's show is brought to you by the Game Time app. With the Game Time app, buying tickets is fast and easy. You can get deals on tickets right up until the day of the event. And it's not just for baseball. Football's included, basketball, comedy, theater, and concerts. Right, Johnny?
That's right. Yeah, I've previously used Game Time to get tickets to Angel games. But Mike, just this week, I got an ad for my favorite band, Counting Crows, and they're teaming up with Dashboard Confessional right now, another band that I love. I've seen Counting Crows multiple times, but I've never seen Dashboard before. And they're playing at the YouTube Theater next to SoFi Stadium. If you've not been there, there's not a bad seat in the house, and it sounds great from every angle. Fortunately, because of Game Time, I got some really killer seats for a really good deal as well. So don't just think that Game Time is only for sports, because we picked up these 2 tickets. Me and my wife are going to go on the 6th, and I can't wait to go. And Game Time came through for us for sure.
You and your wife are going?
Yeah, not you. You didn't invite me to the Angel game last time, so.
Oh. I hate you too. Hey, download the Game Time app right now. You can create an account and use our code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. There are some terms that do apply, but again, create an account, use our code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Locked On Everydayers, don't forget that we are going to be recapping every game against the Texas Rangers. Hey, we went out there, we took 3 of 4 against them last time they were in Arlington, and so hopefully the Angels can keep up the momentum. Hopefully the game on Sunday gave them a little bit of momentum rolling into Arlington, but we'll see how it goes. Interesting pitching matchups coming up. Of course, we face Verlander, who just got traded to the Astros, and now we're going to face Scherzer, who just got traded to the Rangers at the deadline. That's just the Angels' luck, isn't it? Hey, don't forget that you can catch every pitch of the Angels hometown broadcast on SiriusXM with the SXM app. All you got to do is search Angels.
Johnny, on Saturday, the game was almost a mirror image of what happened on Friday. Although Tyler Anderson looked good through the first 3 innings and then just kind of blew up in that 4th inning. He gave up a single, a double, a single, and then a 3-run home run to Kyle Tucker, who as soon as he becomes a free agent, we need to sign him just so that he stops hurting us, because that guy constantly is hurting the Angels. Astros knock Anderson out of the game in the bottom of the 5th, and Anderson just wasn't getting anybody out, John. The top 4 hitters in the Astros order were Altuve, Bregman, Alvarez, and Tucker, and they all reached base against Tyler Anderson in the 2nd and 3rd times through the order. Here's his final line: 4 2/3, 6 hits, 7 runs, 3 walks, 6 Ks, 82 pitches. And like an umbrella in the wind, the Angels just completely got dominated and blown away and folded. And this is not what you want. Right? And Reid's young. Let's give him that, right? Like, he's working on some things. They get some bad advice. But Tyler Anderson's got to be the guy that helps stop the bleeding. Is he not?
That was a beautiful metaphor. I can't get over your, like an umbrella in the wind, the Angels folded. That was fantastic. Yeah. And again, it speaks to the coaching that's happening here, especially with Tyler Anderson. What does he do right, Mike? Well, he throws the changeup on the corners. He throws it to the left side and the right side of the strike zone. That's where he's effective. And that changeup is what makes him effective. He's not a hard thrower. He's never been a hard thrower. Anderson is a pitch to contact guy, and he's the one who should be getting guys out with weak contact. In fact, 6 Ks, I mean, that's pretty high for Tyler Anderson.
Yeah.
And again, that kind of just shows the mindset of, what are we doing here? Why are we going against the grain and taking away the ability for these guys to do the things that they do naturally and trying to make them into somebody that they're not? And I'll also say this. I knew, you and I talked about this, I wanted Tyler Anderson to be signed as a free agent because he's an innings eater. He's a guy that you can count on to be your 3rd or 4th in the rotation. But I knew that he wasn't going to be Dodgers Tyler Anderson. And that speaks again to, what do the Dodgers do well? Well, they coach well, they do analytics well, they do all that stuff well. But at least you think, well, Anderson can be serviceable, but this is not a serviceable start. In fact, this is another step backwards for starting pitching, and I think it's just insane that we had 2 games in a row where these guys just blow up so early on in the game. And again, the final score 11-3. I know Squid hit a garbage time home run at the end of the game, of course. But again, 2 runs against the Astros, a tough starting staff. JP France, somebody that the Angels have beaten before.
Yeah.
I mean, JP France was fantastic through his start. But again, like, if the Angels can just get a competitive start out of their starting pitcher for once in their lives, then they can stay in these games against the Astros. I mean, it's almost like they can out-hit the Astros, and they just can't deliver on the pitching side and the runners in scoring position side per usual, right?
Yeah. And I think the other frustrating piece, and if you're new to being an Angel fan, the thing that Angel fans have known for a long time, John and I have been Angel fans for a long time, is it seems like the guys that we get don't necessarily perform like they used to perform everywhere else. The story I always share, Johnny, is the Gary Gaetti story. When I was a young kid, Gary was with the Twins, really great. Then he signs with the Angels, and the Angels in 1992. Do yourself a favor, by the way, and go to baseballreference.com and look up the 92 Angels. The worst possible offensive team in the entire universe. And Gary Gaetti was supposed to be somebody that was going to be a great third baseman for them. He had a terrible year. I don't think they had double-digit home runs that season. I don't think anybody had double-digit home runs that season for the Halos. But Gaetti came over, was terrible. Then when he leaves, I think he got traded away. He went to Kansas City, and then he had this resurgence. And the reason why I'm sharing this is because this is happening to the Angels again. They traded for Randall Grichuk. They traded for CJ Cron, 2 guys who are great offensive threats. And they haven't done a thing since they've come over, John. I know that there was a home run here and a home run there and maybe an RBI single here or there, but they haven't really done a thing. And what do you do in those moments, right? Because Perry's made the moves to try to fill this lineup and get depth in this lineup, but the guys have to perform. They have to come through, don't they?
Absolutely. And I think, again, I'll say it before it gets said. Cron and Grichuk were coming from Colorado and they had the Coors Field benefit. But the truth is, you look at their numbers, and they had great numbers away from Coors Field in terms of their average, hitting with runners in scoring position. Mike, that's why we were excited that they got traded over here, is because they were hitting with runners in scoring position, and that was going to help solve the issue that the Angels have had. Doesn't this just scream philosophical issue at the end of the day? Because if you got guys who were good at something, then come over to the Angels and stink at something, gee, I wonder what the common denominator there is, considering you got guys struggling with runners in scoring position and chasing pitches they shouldn't be chasing. Mike, I have Cron and Grichuk's numbers here before Sunday's game. CJ Cron has been in 12 games, a 191 average, 262 on base percentage, and a 523 OPS. Remember, 800 is like a good OPS, so he's well below that. 1 home run, 5 RBIs, 4 walks, 13 strikeouts. Randall Grichuk has been in 12 games before Sunday. He also has a 191 average, a 227 on base, and a 608 OPS. He's got 2 home runs, 3 RBIs, 2 walks, and 13 strikeouts. So again, these guys both have 13 strikeouts, both 191 averages. They're just not coming through the way that they needed to be, especially when you lose a guy like Taylor Ward, who was getting hot all through the month of July.
Right.
And you think Grichuk coming over is like, yeah, that's a pretty good replacement for a Taylor Ward type. Maybe he'll hit for a little bit better average, maybe not as much power, maybe play a little bit better defense. He had a great catch in left field on Sunday. Grichuk did, by the way. But again, the replacements and the guys who are supposed to be here to help us score with runners in scoring position are not doing their job. And I know we found out that Cron had a little bit of back soreness, so maybe that's got something to do with it. But again, you're right. It just seems like the inevitable Angels curse is always, we're excited to get somebody, they come over and they completely fall apart. So again, here we are talking about it one more time in one more season as these things go.
Johnny, I'd like to give I'm sitting, but I'm pretending I'm going to stand up right now and give Chase Silseth a standing ovation for being the only starting pitcher that understood that we are in the middle of a wild card chase and trying to get to the playoffs, because he pitched like it on Sunday, John. Angels won 2-1. And you mentioned it in the last 2 segments, getting 3 runs. Like, that can help us to be competitive if our starters actually kept the team in the game. Well, We got 2 runs in this game, and we got a victory because we had a starter on the mound that was able to hold this offense down. 5 innings pitched, 4 hits, 5 Ks, 84 pitches thrown. John, the key to this game was first pitch strikes. Silseth had first pitch strikes to start the game on 14 of the first 17 batters. That means they were down 0-1 immediately. Yeah. And he's got a really good fastball. He's got a really great splitter, got a really nice slider. Johnny, he's learning how to pitch, and you're seeing this guy develop into a really good pitcher. He's pitching not just to be in the rotation this year, he's pitching to be in the rotation for next year. The guy has been really incredible. And then here's his last 4 starts, John. He's got an ERA of 1.59 with 31 strikeouts and 5 walks. And do you know who he pitched against, John? The Yankees, the Braves, the Mariners, and the Astros. This is a guy rising to the occasion. And he's also a guy that's on a pitch limit, because when he's gone through the order, like maybe third time, he's struggled and his velocity has gone down. So they've had a limit on him. But in the time that he has been in the game, he has made the most of it. He's gotten through 5 innings and he's been fantastic. I mean, what a contrast, right? Between him and Tyler Anderson, and him and Reid Detmers.
You know what I noticed about Chase Silseth, other than the first pitch strikes, like you mentioned, because I think that's absolutely crucial. You can't surrender walks. I think even Phil Nevin said, Erica Weston asked him, how did you do it? And he said, we didn't walk anybody.
Right.
And that's huge. The second thing is, Mike, Chase Silseth pitched very smart. I watched him throw against a guy like Yordan Alvarez, and he recognized, hey, if I go high and away with my fastball, I'm going to get Yordan to chase. And that's exactly what he did. Yordan's a lefty. Silseth, the righty, throws it high and away, the strike zone, out of the strike zone, but close enough to get a swing and miss from Yordan Alvarez. And he's throwing at the beginning of the game like 96, right? He's like topping out there. Now, again, he's still dealing with, keeping up that velocity through, 5-6 innings. But you're right. He had a good fastball, a good splitter, a good slider. I went and looked at his page, his recap, and looked at the graphic for where he threw all of his pitches. The splitter was down. The slider was getting weak contact on the ground, and the fastball, he was getting guys to chase stuff like that. When you can get Yordan Alvarez to strike out and you're not afraid of what he's going to do to you, Chase just seemed like he was pitching smart. Yeah. And he's figuring out what guys do. And Mike, there's somebody sent you the book of Joe, right? Joe Madden's book.
Yep.
And there was a page in there, I remember you telling me about this, that when it comes to the pitchers on the mound versus the hitters at the plate, the Angels don't really give them the report on, I hope I have this right. It doesn't seem like the Angels give them the report on the guy at the plate, where it's like, you can look at, a scouting report, the heat maps on like when you're playing the show and you see where it's blue and you're like, oh, I'm going to throw it there because that's where the guy's going to swing and miss. That's what the Angels are lacking. And I think Chase Silseth recognized and pitched smart. Like, I can do that to Yordan Alvarez. I can get him to swing and miss and chase stuff because I'm watching how he's tracking my other pitches and he's sitting ready for a fastball. Well, maybe I'll put one just a little bit out of reach to get him to swing and miss. Yeah. All that to say, I think Chase Silseth has a way different mindset than the rest of the starting staff, other than Ohtani, of course.
Sure.
But again, what does that say? Well, Silseth went back to the minor leagues in AAA and was starting again. I know he was in the bullpen earlier this year, but he goes down to AAA, comes back. He's got 4 starts again. The Yankees, the Braves, the Mariners, the Astros, has kept them in the game every single time. And it's because he's away from Matt Wise. He's away from the major league club. When your AAA coach is doing a better job than the major league coach, something's wrong here.
Yeah. John, do you think that the front office and maybe even Phil Nevin, do you think that they see this? Do you think that they have the numbers in front of them? Do you think that they see it as we see it as fans? Because there hasn't been any moves and Matt Wise just keeps getting extended again. And so it gets really frustrating, but they have to see this, right? Like, this is what they're paid to do. They have to at least have conversations, or are they just completely oblivious to it? What do you think is going on right now?
Last season, we were all frustrated with Matt Wise about halfway through the season. then the starting pitchers did very well for the remainder of the season. Reid Detmers, Patrick Sandoval, Jose Suarez. And I think that fooled people into thinking that Matt Wise had something to do with that. I think it fooled people into thinking, oh, you know what? Matt did do a pretty decent job this year. I don't think it had anything to do with him, Mike. I'm starting to see that, and I think the front office is starting to see that too. I tweeted from Locked On Angels. I said, Matt Wise needs to be gone tomorrow after that Reid Detmers start, because I saw all these people piling on Reid Detmers, and I'm thinking, you guys have to understand that they went in the completely opposite direction of what he's good at.
His complete approach. You're right. Yeah.
It's just insane to me that that's allowed. But I also have a theory, Mike. I think that, and I brought this up last week when we were talking about it, I think the front office needs their voice, and I think Matt Wise has been their voice. But there's got to be a communication breakdown here somewhere, because whether it's the front office telling Matt Wise to tell Reid Detmers to change his approach, then that's bad. If it's Matt Wise himself telling Reid Detmers to change his approach, that's bad. I think it's absolutely crazy to me. And then you look at guys like, Soriano and Lopez and Moore and Estevez coming in and doing their job. Moore's a veteran. Esty knows what he's doing. Lopez came over from the White Sox. Soriano came up from the minor leagues this season. I think they're too hands-on and involved with the starting pitching, and maybe if we tweak that, or if we turn this knob, or if we do this or that, it's just like, leave them alone. Let them be who they are, and let them be what they're good at. I can't wait for our conversation tomorrow on the pitching coaching and the hitting coaching for sure. Mike, one of the things that was awesome was seeing Eduardo Escobar double. Mickey Moniak drove him in with a double, and then Ohtani hits a rocket in the juice box, the Astros stadium. So you want to go space theme about this. Well, Ohtani hit a rocket, and it was a 448-foot home run, his 41st of the year, off the top of the batter's eye at Minute Maid Park. That was fantastic to see.
It was fantastic to see. Johnny, there's 43 games left. Angels are 6.5 back. They got the Rangers tonight. It's Sandy versus Scherzer. Are you still on the bubble of, man, if we put some things together, if Grichuk and Crone can actually be who they are, we can get some hits, and if the pitchers figure some things, are you still on that bubble? Where are you sitting right now?
I would just like them to get to 70 wins at the end of this month, because next month the schedule is much easier than it is now. It's just get to 70 wins. Just get it. That's not even asking for. Earlier this season, we were like, hey, 15 wins a month. That's 90 wins through the season. Yeah. You don't even have to get 15. Get 14. Right. Just get it done. Pick up some wins. Go on a streak. The Mariners got to go on a streak. Right. The Rangers went on a streak. Why can't you guys go on a streak? And it's because the starting pitching has not kept them in the game. And really, it's just all you got to do is look at the end of this month and be like, hey, we got to 70 wins. That's fantastic. Now let's do some cooking in September. Let's put this month behind us. Let's take advantage of all these easy games that we have against the A's and stuff like that, and get to work. And Phil Nevin said it before. Everything's right in front of them. Well, that's true, but you guys have to step up and make it happen. And I don't think 14 wins at the end of this month on August 14th is too much to ask for.
Well, thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. The Angels play the Rangers at 5:05, and you can catch every pitch of the Angels' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Just search Angels.
Hey, give us a follow on Twitter at Locked On Angels and at Super Halo Bros on Twitter and Instagram. Mike, I'm going to say it. Buckle up, nerds, because what do we have on deck for tomorrow's show?
Well, we're going to talk about Marcus Thames, and we're going to talk about Matt Wise, and we're going to talk about what has worked and what hasn't worked. And there's a lot that hasn't worked, but what has worked might actually shock you, and we're going to talk about that tomorrow on Locked On Angels.
Looking forward to that conversation. We hope you'll come back and join us again. In the meantime, my name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Thanks for being here with us, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.